Hello, everyone. This is me, Eric, and I'm here doing a pilot of a podcast, essentially. I do make YouTube videos, and I like making YouTube videos, but right now, I cannot edit my YouTube videos. I have a garbage computer, and it's just not going to get done. It's not something that's going to be happening, and it's shitty. But right now, I do not have enough money to get a new computer. I'm not going to be able to edit YouTube videos. So right now, it's just not happening. And other than that, I have two videos that are already 100% shot. One of them is like half edited, and the other one is nowhere. And then I have four in total that are fully written and can be shot. So I do have things in the works, but I can't really go anywhere with it because I have a garbage computer. But what I can do is edit audio. That is no problem for me. It's fucking easy. I can do that. So, that's great. Also, I have a confession to make, sort of. I hate shooting videos. So, my YouTube videos take up in three parts: writing, shooting, and editing. Shooting is my least favorite one because I have to memorize lines, look straight at the camera, and say them. It's not my thing, and I don't like it. And I force myself to look straight at the camera and remember all my lines and do all that stuff because I want to make things of quality, and right now I just fucking hate shooting videos. It's not a stage fright thing, it's just something that I do not like doing at all. And it's shitty, but I gotta get it done, and right now I don't want to get it done because I can't edit the videos, like, at all. So, fuck it. I'm making more YouTube videos, but it's not really going to happen anytime soon until I can get a new computer that has better video editing and processing and rendering. So, right now, YouTube's kind of on halt, but I figure, hey, I might as well make a podcast, then I don't have to edit anything, basically, and I could just release it on SoundCloud or maybe YouTube. And, you know, people might like it and people might listen to it. And it's just me rambling. So this is Ramblestorm. So, yeah, I might have people on it on occasion. Like, I might have, like, a friend come on and we can discuss something together. I don't know. I'm just gonna shit this out and say, hey, why not? Like, I'm just throwing this at the wall and seeing if it sticks. So yeah, this is this show, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about three things of recent that I've experienced. And it can be anything. It just has to be art. So it has to be, you know, music or a movie or a video game. Luckily for this podcast, the pilot, we have one of each. So we have a movie, an album, and a video game. So, today we're going to be talking about Total Recall from 1990, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, directed by Paul Verhoeven. And we are going to be talking about Coconuts, an album by Coconuts from 2010, most notably recognized from the game Hotline Miami, and their track that was on it, Silver Lights, which is on this album. And we're going to talk about Stardew Valley, one of my favorite games of recent years from 2016. So, let's get into it. Why not? Firstly, we're going to be talking about Total Recall. So, I saw this film recently. I haven't seen it in like 4 or 5 years, and I was like, oh, hey, I'll watch this. I was browsing through free movies on my TV, and I was like, hey, I can watch this without getting interrupted by annoying ads. Speaking of ads, here's one right now. No, I'm kidding. There's no ads. Don't worry. So yeah, I saw Total Recall again, and I was like, this is a damn fine film. It really holds up. I was very satisfied with that viewing experience. Out of all the things in the movie, I think I only had one major problem with it, and that was it really drags at the end. Like, at the end of the film, like the climax and the resolving action, it just drags so long. And it's like, what are you, like, everything else in the movie has, like, perfect pacing. It's, like, really well paced. It's extremely entertaining, and there's not, like, a moment where I wasn't in the movie. And then the end happened, and, well, yeah, it drags, and it's miserable. Okay, it's not miserable. I'm stretching that a bit. But my point is, it really drags and it's irritating because you get the end of the movie. It's like knowing the punchline of a joke before the second line of the joke is out. You're like, I fucking get it. And that's what the end of the movie is like. It's like, okay, I know what's going to happen. Finish it. You're like, okay, I get it. This movie could have been 90 minutes. So you think it's an hour and 57 minutes? Or not, an hour and 57 minutes. It's almost 2 hours. 20 minutes of that could have been cut out. It's like, okay, I like this movie, but get on with it. Aside from that, now that I'm done with the negative stuff, I think I'd rather take on the negative stuff first, because then it makes the rest of my review look better. It makes me have a more positive outlook. And I do have a positive opinion in of this film, so it's like, I want to get the bad stuff out of the way. One of the things this movie really stands out is it has incredible effects. Like, really good effects for 1990. They're really, really good. Lots of really good effects with prosthetics and fake heads. The fake heads in this movie are fucking awesome. They're great. You see the first fake head like 5 minutes in the movie, and it's just awesome. Aside from like the more like blatant effects, there's a lot of like smaller effects where it's just like, that's just good. And it's nice to see a movie where it's like they put that much detail. There's a scene where Arnold first walks into the recall facility, and there's a receptionist, and she's painting her nails, but she's using like this weird futuristic like laser technology. And what happens is it just coats her nail, but it does like a little animation. And it's like, so it's just one little simple shot. And I'm like, how the fuck did they do that? Like, how did they get her nail to change from the hangnail all the way up to the top of the nail in that cut? Like, how did they get that animation done? Like, what did they do? And it looks great. And that's the thing. Like, with movie effects, especially movie effects from then, like the pre-CG era, you really want movie effects to be one or two things. Well, these are the two things you want to think when you see the effect. You want to see the effect and say, wow, that looks great. And I don't know how they did that, but I kind of do wish I knew how they did that. It's so fucking awesome. And then, two, you want to say, that's an effect? You don't even want to know the effect is there. The best thing an effect can do is not be like, hey, look at me, I'm obviously fake. And this movie has both of those for the most part. As I said, there's like great fake heads in this movie, but there's one fake head where it's like, okay, I know this is a fake head, and I buy into it for the most part, but I can't see his fucking eyeballs. Arnold's pulling a bug out of his head, and it's not an actual bug, it's a tracker. CIA style, kind of, I know where you are because I planted a tracker on you, and it's inside your skull, so he has to pull it out of his nose. And it does some really creative cuts so that it looks more seamless. But there's one shot where it's like, I can tell this is a fake head because I can't see his eyeballs. Like, he has his eyes squinted in a way where you would still be able to see his eyes and they're just a black void, and you're like, no, that's not a thing. So, yeah, some of the effects, you're like, whatever. Another one that's like, and it's a standard one from this kind of era where you like see a movie and you go, okay, that looks like shit. It's not so noticeable in this movie, but the composite shots or the like green screen or blue screen kind of shots, they don't look very good. And that's just kind of standard for this time frame. There's a shot in Evil Dead 2, which is 3 years before this, where Ash is like on a landscape and you see day turn to night really quick, and you're like, that's awful. you see like this really shitty outline around him, and he's all like grainy looking, and you're just like, he's plugged in there. It doesn't look right. And this movie has some of the same problems, where you have like a composite shot, and you're like, okay, that doesn't look exactly right, but it's not nearly as bad as the example I just gave. Where it's like, okay, I kind of know this is a composite shot because the outlines on them look a little sketchy, like it just looks a little weird. But for the most part, you buy into it and you're like, okay, yeah. One of the other things I wanted to talk about is Arnold himself. A lot of people don't like Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's kind of memed as an actor. I wouldn't even call him an actor because most of his performances aren't great. He's more of a movie star. But this is a movie where I think he is pretty good in the role. He's not like Oscar-worthy, like, oh my god, he's so great. He's just pretty damn good in this movie. There's only like, I can only think of like one or two lines where it's like, okay, that sounds like fucking garbage. Which is surprising. This movie and Predator are like two good Arnold performances. They're not like amazing, they're not breakout performances, they're just good. And this is one of them. Like, it's a good performance. And a lot of people don't like Arnold, they can't take him seriously, his accent's too thick. Like, this is a great example of a movie where some of his lines, he kills it. Like, great, like, classic Arnold lines. And then there's other ones where it's like, oh. There's this one where he says, "Sue me, dickhead." And I'm like, that was the line? Did you do another take? Like, what the fuck? But, you know, you kind of go, okay, whatever, it's Arnold, whatever. But he's, like, really charming, so you're like, whatever, he's great. I said whatever, like, 5 times, so I don't care. But yeah, Arnold is pretty good in this movie. Same thing with Predator, like, he's pretty good. He's a much better facial actor than he is a delivery actor. And for the most part, that's true in this movie. I don't know if it's like, you know, Predator, where it's like, he has just these really expressive eyes and he's just like selling it. And you're like, wow, that looks great. But yeah, it's a good performance. Aside from that, this is a Verhoeven movie. I'm a huge fan of Paul Verhoeven. His Starship Troopers movie and RoboCop 1 and 2 is alright. 2 has a lot of problems, but 2's really funny. Starship Troopers and RoboCop are some of the funniest fucking movies I've ever seen. I love those movies. They are so funny. They nail satire so perfectly, and it's just amazing. I seriously love those films because they are so fun. And they're really dark. It's like really dark satire, and that's why I like it. This movie doesn't really have his satirical angle in it, which is... I mean, there's certain things where it's like, okay, it's slipping in here and there, but it's more of just like a straight narrative and a sci-fi story told through his vision. And it's really well done in that, but it's not really satirical. It's a funny movie. It's got good humor in it, but it's not like I'd buy that for $1, you know? It doesn't really reach that. It's just, this is pretty good. Oh, that's kind of funny. And it has really good world building in it because he's good at that. But it's not gut busting RoboCop when a doctor's trying to sell a heart transplant because the hearts in America are just so fucking terrible because of all the fat. Like, just heart conditions are so terrible that they're selling like Yamaha hearts. Like, it's not like that, but it's pretty good. It's not satirical, but it's funny. And it's sad to see a Verhoeven movie that doesn't have his amazing satirical elements, but it still works as a film. There's a lot of good cinematography in this film. It's not like amazing, but there's great sets in this film as well. So much of this movie is just seamless, where you're like, what the fuck? Is this actually Mars? There's a lot of great stuff in this movie in terms of sets and design and a ton of stuff, and you know, the director gets all the blame or all the glory, and in this scenario, Verhoeven gets the glory. He really nailed the look of this movie, and it's very, I said earlier, this movie's extremely efficiently paced. Its pacing is like, yes, great. It just works. There was a remake of this movie in 2012. I don't want to see it. I have no interest in seeing it, because I saw this movie and I'm like, wow, what a fine film. And then if I see the remake, I'm going to be like, wow, what a mediocre piece of fucking trash. I have a friend who's very into film, and he's like, I recommend the remake. And I'm like, I don't really want to see it. And he just likes it because he doesn't like Arnold, which, like, come on. I mean, I know why people don't like Arnold, but in this movie, he's pretty good. So, Don't watch the remake. I don't think you should watch it. I haven't seen it, but I have no interest in seeing it. So, yeah, fuck the remake. New review. Remake, terrible movie. I just saw it. Awful. Hated it. Worst thing ever. Worse than 9/11 and AIDS combined. No, I really haven't seen it. But, yeah, I don't have an interest in seeing it. This movie does have a lot of really interesting science fiction concepts of, it's very psychological. It has interesting science fiction concepts, but it has these standard, like, fantasy, like, it has the standard fantasy and science fiction allegory of rich versus poor, but the way this is done is a little bit more interesting than that, because the rich can literally just brainwash people, like, literally. And I really like the concept that the main monopoly on Mars is selling people air. I'm like, that just makes sense. Like, that's something that a monopoly would do. They don't give a fuck. Like, they don't care. But it is a standard, like, oh, it's poor versus rich. Oh my god. Hey, we're poor people. We don't like the rich people. Do you get it? It's like, okay, I got it. But yeah, so the flaws in this film, it drags at the end. Poor versus rich is like, whatever, it's the same thing over and over again. And some of the effects don't work, but most of the effects do. Aside from that, good performances, good writing, solid science fiction concepts, really good pacing, and there's a good sense of humor in it. That's not nearly as blatant as RoboCop or Starship Troopers, but it's still good. Okay, I'm done with Total Recall. Surprisingly, that didn't take that long. I don't know how long these podcasts are going to be, but they're turning out to be pretty short. I'm recording this and I'm not even 20 minutes in. I'm surprised at myself, because usually I ramble way more. So I want to talk about the album Coconuts by Coconuts, recorded in 2010, and this is their only album. After this album, literally nothing happened, which, that kind of sucks, because I like this album quite a bit. The most significant thing about Coconuts is that their song Silver Lights was in the game Hotline Miami, which Hotline Miami 1 and 2, I can't pick one or the other. So they're like top 3 favorite games just ever. I'm a huge fan of Hotline Miami. The narrative structure is great. The gameplay is fantastic, and it's just really good. So, aside from that, their song Silver Lights shows up, and Silver Lights is by far the best song on the album, but I'm not going to act like, oh, I knew about Coconuts before Hotline Miami. No, I know about Coconuts because of Hotline Miami, and I don't know why all of a sudden I just got drawn to this album and wanted to listen to it for the first time. Because I literally have recently listened to it for the first time. It's not like something I've known about for a long time. I've known the song Silver Lights for a long time, because I'm a huge fan of Hotline Miami and have been for multiple years. And I don't know why I was drawn to this album, but I am. And all of a sudden I listen to it, and I really like it. The only thing I will say about it, for the most part, is you will hate it. The majority of people who listen to this album will fucking hate it. And unless you like music as an artistic experience, where you can listen to music for negative and positive emotions, if you can experience music in a more artistic vision like that, you might appreciate this album. But if you just like listening to music that you enjoy and it makes you feel good and you're like, wow, this music sounds awesome, and then you can't explain like why you like the music, don't fucking listen to this album. You will hate it. You will want to die. Your ears will want to fucking explode. Your ears will be exploding and your eardrums will fucking pop. You will hate yourself for listening to this album. But if you like listening to music for an artistic experience, if you listen to long ambience of music, if you listen to long noise rock albums, if you listen to huge industrial bands that just have such miserable sounds in it, you will appreciate this album. I can't say you will like it, but you will appreciate it. It is extremely miserable and grating on purpose. This album leads you in with its standard, like, good bass and beats and this really mellow, depressing vocals that really fits the tone of the music. And then it completely throws your comfort zone out of the window and has these grating, metallic, eerie sounds that will just make you want to die. Do not listen to this album with don't turn up the volume. That's what I'm saying. Don't turn up the volume because your ears will want to, they'll fucking hate you. You'll hate yourself. So don't listen to this album like super loud because your ears will actually hurt. You will get a headache. And I'm like, this album's great. You'll get a fucking headache and you'll hate it. This is what we're at. Okay. It's miserable and grating on purpose. And a lot of people are going to be like, okay, I appreciate music artistically, but what's the point in that? Well, I'll explain something. There are a lot of artistic experiences that are designed to make you feel terrible. And I really like those. Whenever I watch Cannibal Holocaust, which isn't frequent because that movie's fucking miserable, there's a lot of stuff in that movie that's extremely disturbing and makes you, in some cases, you will hate the filmmaker. Like, there's a lot of that, where it's like, you will just be so uncomfortable and miserable. And that's what Coconuts does. I have a great story. Once upon a time, my grandmother read a book called The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. And she was like, wow, this was a really intense and good book. I liked it. So, when the David Fincher film came out, she's like, I'm going to take my husband, who is my grandfather, and I'm going to go see it with a couple other friends. And when they saw it in the theater, there was a rape scene. And she fucking hated it because it was so disturbing and so well done that she was like, we're leaving. And only one person in their group was like into it. Not in like a positive way where they're like, yeah, rape is great. No, great. Now there's a soundbite of me saying that. Fucking kill me. That's great. Hey, let's ruin my publicity even more. No. Anyways. There was one person in their group who was like into it. They were like, okay, this is miserable and like upsetting, but that's the point, and it's really well executed. They were into it in a technical way. So they're like, yeah, this is great. The rest of them were like, this was fucking terrible. Coconuts is like a rape scene. It's fucking miserable and makes you want to die, but it's a well-crafted scene, and it's miserable on purpose. It's trying to make you feel uncomfortable, because that's the purpose of the scene. You're not supposed to feel good. You're supposed to feel awful. And that's what it is. My grandmother walked out of that film saying, wow, that's fucking awful. In the book, they just kind of mention that happened, and that's the end of it. But in this, they make you feel like garbage. And it's like, yeah, that's the point. And that's Coconuts in a nutshell. It's going to make you feel miserable, and you're going to have to accept that. This album oozes hatred and misery and depression. And it does so with these grating metallic sounds that make a lot of people just want to turn the album off. But that's the point. I mean, I'm not going to say that like, oh, if you make something bad on purpose, that means it's good. But my point is that it creates something that's comforting and good. You're like, wow, this is a great bass line. And then it just fucking destroys you. And it's extremely well done in its execution and build-up. Where it's like, I want to listen to the rest of this album. I'd say one of the somewhat complaints I have with this album is that it's very similar to one another. The songs are very like, okay, this is another song, but it's very similar to the last song. And yes, that is the situation, but the reason why it works is because you still get drawn in by these different metallic grating noises, and you still get drawn in by these really good bass lines and this really, really well done vocals. And you just keep getting like, okay, I'm into this. Even though it's similar, you're still like, okay, I'm into this. Recently, I tried listening to Ohm and their album, Conference of the Birds. And I was like, you know what? This is pretty good music. But 11 minutes into that album, I was like, I know exactly where this album is going, and it's the same thing over and over again. Coconuts has a similar feel to it, but you're still drawn in by different tracks because they have a different appeal to them. And one of the things about this album is it's noise rock. And noise rock, I think noise rock is like the most unpopular genre of rock music. No, a lot of people don't like it. My favorite noise rock band, which they're my favorite because they're not even that much noise rock, is Boris. And their album Pink is their best album. I really like Boris, but it's a lot because they're more like psychedelic rock and they have a lot of metal influences and they're kind of thrashy and they're just a really fun band. I highly recommend Boris. I think I've mentioned them before, but they have a couple tracks on that album where it's like, this is noise rock and it's designed to make you feel like you're in limbo, where it's like you're just stuck there. There's a certain track on Pink where it's like, it just goes on forever, and that's the point. Like, the point is that it goes on forever, and it's going to make you miserable. And again, a lot of people are going to be like, oh, so they're doing it on purpose, so that makes it good. And I'm like, a little bit, yeah. But the reason why it works is because it does have different sounds going on, and it does make you feel something, or at least it makes me feel something, where I think one of the greatest feats that Coconuts does with this album is creating an ultimate feeling of disorientation. It makes you feel not only miserable, but confused and sad. It almost perfectly makes you feel almost a fear because of your confusion and disorientation from the record. And that's one of the reasons why I really, really like it. But again, this is not, this is the rape scene of albums. You're not going to listen to it every single day and love it. This is not something I say, hey, put it on your iPod and throw that on shuffle. No, don't do that. Because you'll be listening to, oh man, I sure love this Megadeth song. And then you'll just hear, and you're like, I want to die. I probably shouldn't have made that noise. Everyone's going to hate that part. Or they're going to take that sound bit along with whatever the other one was about rape. And they're going to meme the fuck out of it. Great. But yeah, I highly recommend Coconuts. But if you don't like listening to music as an art form where you can experience negative versions of it, maybe don't. If you just like listening to music because oh, hey, I like listening to this music because it makes me feel pumped up or I feel happy when I listen to it. If you just listen to music for those reasons, great. But I like experiencing the spectrum of emotions that art can make you feel, and that's what this does, is it puts you in the lower, more depressing spectrum of emotions that is able to be experienced from art. And if you don't like that idea from music, then don't listen to it. But if you're curious, just based on my recommendation, and you also like industrial metal or any noise rock, I highly recommend this album. If you like noise rock at all, you will fucking really, really either appreciate or love this album. It is very well made noise rock, but a lot of people don't like noise rock. So I don't know what to tell you. So yes, I would recommend this, but not to everyone. Not to Grandma. Grandma would hate this fucking music. Okay. And now I have Stardew Valley, which I have the least to talk about because I don't know what to say. Because I really like Stardew Valley, but it's like, what can I say about it? I think everybody has given this game a really positive review, And anyone who's said negative things about it, it's just because it's not their kind of game. Like, my dad would fucking hate this game. Because it's like, oh, what's the point? You make friends and you fucking farm? I can do that in real life. You fucking pussy. What are you doing, you stupid faggot? Get off the internet. That's what my dad talks like. I love my dad. He's a great guy. He doesn't say shit like that to me. But yeah, I love this game. Mainly because it's really just a game where it's perfect to play in the background of something. It's a lot like World of Warcraft. I like World of Warcraft. A bunch of people are like, oh, it's fucking boring. You just grind and like, oh, it's stupid. But it's like, it's just something I can kind of work on in the background while I'm watching something on YouTube or maybe listening to an audiobook or anything like that. And I'm like, okay, my main focus is on something else, but I can also work on this and enjoy myself while doing that. And that's what this game really effectively does. At least for me. A lot of people like playing this game and they're like, I'm listening to the music and I'm going to harvest my crops and I'm putting my full brain into this. And I'm like, nope, not what I'm going to do. Fuck that. But this is one of my favorite games, period. And it's mainly one of my favorite recent games. If Dark Souls 3 wasn't a game that came out recently in the same year of this game, this would be my favorite game in like the last 5 years. Yeah, it's really good. I have 218 hours in this game, and that's definitely going to be going up. I've been playing it recently. Hang on, I'm going to check if I can see how many hours I've had in it in like the last couple weeks. So I'll check on that. But I have 218 hours in this game, and it's going to be 230 by the end of the week. That's what I'm telling you. Like, I like this game a lot, and I play it a lot. And when I do play it, it's something that I enjoy. I have 14.8 hours in the last 2 weeks. So yes, I have a lot of hours in this game. Even recently, almost 15 hours into it. What I'm saying is, when I get into this game, I get into this game. And it has amazing replayability, and that's why I have so many hours in this. If I was going to have like one solid just playthrough of this game and trying to max out my character, and then I'd never touch it again, I'd have 80 hours in this game. And those are only my Steam hours, not to mention. So my Steam hours are 218. But I pirated this game to try it out at first, which...
That's illegal. Don't do it.
But if you want to try out a game, I don't have a problem with you pirating it. I really don't. And I can estimate that I played about 40 hours on this game without buying it. So, about 258 hours of Stardew Valley. And I don't regret any of it. I really like this game. It's extremely replayable, and it's really simple. Really what you do is you just have a farm, and you can make friends, and you can get married, but really the point of the game is that you should find a goal for yourself and accomplish it. My last large playthrough of this game was, I am going to make a winery and orchard. Like, I'm just going to plant a bunch of fruit trees. I'm gonna get a bunch of wine made out of that. I'm going to make a bunch of mead from all the honey that I'm harvesting from bees. And that's what I did. And it took a while. It took about 80 hours to get through the whole process. But I did it. And that was my goal. And then I was like, done. I made friends with... I think I have the highest heart rating for all the friends in the entire town on that game. And I still have some things that I can do on that profile. And I will go back and accomplish those things, but for the most part, I accomplished my goal, and I was happy with how my farm turned out. And I also have a chicken coop and some barn animals that I harvest cheese from, that I harvest, truffles from the pigs that they dig up, and I can get some eggs, and I can make some gourmet meals. It's just like, you just get all these things that you can do. And it's kind of overwhelming when you first start the game. You're like, oh, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. But over time, you really develop that and what you really want to do. So, yes, it's really a game where you're like, I want to do this, and then you do it. That's it. And that's why I like it so much. It's completely aping off of Harvest Moon, which I have played briefly, but that game's extremely hectic, and I don't like it for that reason. It's way too hectic, it's way too fast, and it's a little confusing. It's like, okay, I have to do this to do this. Oh, I have to make payments on my farm. Oh, I have to do... It's like, I don't want to fucking do that. I don't want to do it. One of the other things with this game is, I mentioned the replayability, but the thing that I really like about this game is that it's very replayable over long periods of time. So what I mean by that is you will play the game in like a huge burst, and then you'll just throw it away for like 4 months. And then you'll be like, oh hey, Stardew Valley's a thing. And then you'll start a new character and play it all over again. It's one of those games where you just pick it up like every couple months or every year or so. It's very much like that. And that's something that I really like in a game, where it's like, I can just pick it up every now and then and I can enjoy it. Because I really appreciate replayability in games, and this game certainly has a lot of replayability. So yeah, you could literally just throw the game away for a while. Oh hey, 6 months later, let's play some Stardew Valley. I got some downtime. And then you could play it. And if you don't like what's in the game currently, the modding community is fucking amazing for this game. The only problem is that recently, well, I say recently when it was really like 4 or 5 months ago, Stardew Valley had a massive update, the 1.3 update, which added a bunch of shit. But the problem is that it made most of the mods completely not up to date. So they had to re-update them. So right now a lot of mods that you can get for this game just don't work. Which will be fixed eventually, but there's a lot of mods where it's like, I want to use that, and then it's like, oh, you have to get a fan update for it. And I'm like, I don't want to fucking do that. I'll just wait for the official update to come out. And then it never does, and you're fucked. But yes, the modding community is great. You can change basically everything in the game. Even though, like, the modding community is pretty limited, it's still good. There's only like 1,000 mods for this game. But still, that's good. That's a good amount. I can change how all of the characters look. There's a mod where you can make all the characters, you can make all the characters anthropomorphic animals. It's a furry mod. Fuck! I mean, if that's your thing, great. But when I look at it, I just want to fucking die, and it ruins the game for me. But yeah, if you want to make Abigail into a baby dragon, you can do that. I don't know why you would want to do that, but you can. Okay. Yeah, the modding community is great. There's a bunch of really cool mods that are what I call quality of life mods, where it's just like, it just makes the game less annoying. There's a great mod, I think it's just called More Info or something like that, where if you just have your mouse over something and you press F1, it just brings up like a mini wiki page in your game. And it's like, that is so much better. So, you know, whenever I'm like, oh hey, I want to get a gift for this person because I want to fuck them, instead of having to look it up on the wiki, you just fucking press F1 and they say like, oh, this person really likes these gifts. And then you can give them those things and it's so fucking easy. Yeah, the modding community makes this game really, really good. The game is already, like, really amazing. The game is already amazing. The vanilla game is fucking quality and great. But the modding, it bumps it up even further. It's like, you know what? I get all these mods that make the game less bullshit and less annoying. I'm into that. I probably shouldn't, like, clap and, like, snap because it just fucking... It's just so loud. But yeah, the modding community really fits this game, and it's one of my favorite games for a reason, because it's just like, you know what, I want to do this. Why not? I still haven't messed around with all the farms. I've only done 3 of the farm maps, which is I've done the foresting farm, I've done the fishing farm, which that one kind of sucked, I don't like that one, and then I've done the standard farm. I haven't done the other ones, though. They sound interesting. Like, I want to do the farm where monsters show up on it. Like, that sounds cool. There's a bunch of really cool shit in this game, and I really like it. I wish they would change things about it more frequently, but it's one guy. So, I mean, good on him, man. Good job. Good job, Eric Blank. I don't remember your last name, but I know your name is Eric because my name is Eric. Aren't I egotistical? Great. So, I don't actually have anything more to talk about. Those were my 3 things. This podcast might be longer next time. It might not. Who knows? Maybe this podcast won't even get a sequel. Get a good old episode 2. Maybe it will. Who knows? But I'm mainly making this because I don't really have to edit it very often, and I can just record my voice, and it's like, hey, that's great. I'll do like a quick recap. Total Recall, 100% recommend it. Go see it. It's great. Coconuts, if you're into miserable music, check it out. You'll love it. Stardew Valley, if you're looking for a game that you can play and relax and enjoy and unwind, fucking check it out if you haven't already. It's amazing. So, thank you for listening. This was Eric Clay Baker, or Uberstorm, and this is the podcast end. This was, what did I call it? Ramblestorm? I came up with that in like 5 seconds. Should I use that name? I don't know. I hope my audio was fine for this. I think it was quite inconsistent as far as volume goes, but I'll try to fix that in post. And if it is fixed in post, let me know. And if you want me to talk about anything, maybe like give me a recommendation. Maybe like tell me something like, hey, you can watch this. You can listen to this. You can play this. Maybe I'll actually do it. I probably won't, but maybe I'll do it. And if I do it, I'll give you like a little hand. I mean, not a hand job. I'll give you a shout out. Yeah. Shout out. I'll be like, Adolf Hitler recommends that I listen to slam metal. You know, I probably just gave you like the worst idea. If you ask me to listen to slam metal, I'm not gonna fucking do it, okay? Fuck you. But if you want to give me a recommendation for the next podcast, or if you want to say that you like this podcast and you want to see more of it, that's great. If you want to give me feedback, that's even better. So yeah, thank you for listening. Have a good one. This was Ramblestorm. I almost forgot to say that this will be uploaded to YouTube and SoundCloud, and in the respective descriptions for which one you're using, there will be like links to my social media or my YouTube channel or my SoundCloud, so you can listen to it there or whatever. There'll be my Twitter, there'll be a bunch of other things, Discord server, all that shit. So, if you liked this, great. Tell me what you thought about it and share it with someone. Thank you for listening. This was Ramblestorm.